Okay, my name's Tommy Morris. I'm from the University of Alabama in Huntsville. And so the K-12 grants, there were actually two grants that were awarded. So one was to a team from University of Alabama in Huntsville, and the other was to a team from Moraine Valley Community College. And since that, or right before the award, actually, we worked with NSA to actually engage together as two teams. And so we've got some combined efforts between the Moraine Valley team and the UAH team, but actually we're still going, on officially two separate projects. So I'm going to talk about Ring, which is the UAH team project, and then following me, John Sands from Moraine Valley will give an update on his half of the project. So Ring is a online curriculum effort where we're developing a class for students that are out there who are rural, who are under-resourced, who are homeschooled, or who are attending schools without a cyber program. So basically, we're trying to reach those students from those types of populations from the K-12, middle and high school specifically. And the idea is that these folks right now, they don't have a cyber offering, but they're clamoring for one. The world knows that there are, a million jobs. That word is getting around that cyber is a great career. There's a lot of kids out there in these underserved communities that want to see cyber, learn what it is, and get involved. And so what Ring is a project to bring an online virtual class to these students from these communities. We are a partnership with 6 other entities. So there's UAH. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead. I looked at the Ring stands for Regions Investing in the Next Generation. That was the acronym that we put together for the proposal. The idea is that we're going to develop a class that can be used to earn high school credit, even offer college credit. So we're working with our local institutions to find a way to dual enroll students so that they can get college credit for participating in this class. We want to have an honor society so that students participate in an honor society that's national as part of Ring. The project will develop virtual challenges and labs, so it's not just lecture-based and test, it's also, hands-on as well. We want to identify career pathways to students and teach them about those so that they can see where they can go with a cyber career. And then we also have a set of academic and business partners to help us expand Ring out to the community. So what is the Ring and why do we name it that? So it's inspired by the Iron Ring of Engineers, which is a thing from Canada, where engineers, when they receive their degree in Canada, they receive a ring. And you can see in the picture there, 5, 6 hands with a ring on the pinky finger that, basically gives those new engineers pride, but with humility. It reminds them of their ethical obligation as an engineer and helps to remind them of the professional conduct that's expected of them as they work as an engineer. And so the goal of Ring is to provide cybersecurity for all students with an emphasis on ethics, personal responsibility, and professionalism. And my slide is stuck. There it goes. So who are our partners? So on the UAH team, we actually reached out and formed a partnership across the 5 NSA CAE community regions. So on the West Coast, we have Coastline Community College. In the Midwest, we have Dakota State University in South Dakota. On the East Coast, we have Pace University. Also, I guess in the Midwest, I guess that's where Indiana would call themselves. We have Purdue University Northwest. We also have Dark Enterprises, Melissa Dark, from Dark Enterprises, helping us to align our curriculum to a national high school framework that she's put together with the National Cryptologic Museum. And then we've got some national partners, Connection Academy, Niswonger Foundation, and the National Rural Education Association. And then there's also, I mentioned earlier, a complementary team led by Moraine Valley Community College. And I'm sure they'll go into more detail of this, but Forsyth Technical Community College, Brookdale Community College, Florida State College at Jacksonville, Cal Poly Pomona, Eastern New Mexico University, Ruidoso, and CISCO Networking Academy are all involved on that side. So highlights of what we're up to right now. We are animation. Right now we're developing curriculum. So we've got a team at UAH that is leading out the curriculum development, and they are in the middle of developing modules. We're also, we've sent out, we were recently funded from NSA, and we've got all of the subawards. So we have subawards to each of those 5 academic partners and to Dark Enterprises. Most of those we're actually still waiting. They've been, contracts have been sent to the subawardees, but we're still waiting for those to come back with any either executed or requested language changes as you try to get 2 states to work, with one another. So that's still in process. And as we develop that curriculum and as those partners come online, we'll be sending, getting contributions from those partners and also sending our curriculum out for review from other partners in the project. Starting this spring, we plan to unveil a set of Gen Cyber related collaborations and begin to advertise to K-12 partner students. So looking for, to recruit students to take the course that will come along in the fall. So, and also in the summer, we plan to advertise through Gen Cyber Camp. So basically, we've got a big recruitment plan with the idea that the course will launch online, a pilot version of the course in the fall of 2021. Where are we recruiting? I've already mentioned Gen Cyber. We'll also be recruiting through the CAE community, through the National Rural Education Association, through the American Association of Community Colleges, the Association of Career Technical Education, through K-12 academies, including Niswonger and the Alabama Connections Academy, through homeschool groups, conferences, and NICE K-12. And of course, I guess this is the CAE community I'm talking to, so we'd love for you to help us get the word out that we have this upcoming course that's going to be available for the K-12 market. I'm just going to put all this on the screen. So students will receive entry into their own student organization when they join the course. So they're going to be connected to the online course. They'll have webinars, online discussion groups with their peers, mentorship from folks assigned to mentor, and then there'll be other opportunities as well. Students can complete, a learning and community service portfolio, and then also from that, we will select students for membership in an honor society. The curriculum, the pilot course will be taught by trained and credentialed K-12 educators. So we've got someone on staff at UAH who will be the initial instructor teaching the material next fall. But the material that we're developing will be available for use by any educator. So in other words, we're going to make that available to K-12 instructors as well. Excuse me. Students should receive high school credit and have the option to receive college credit at participating institutions. Students also may be eligible for technology assistance, so to help them, with their technology needs to engage with the program. Lesson plans and instructor slides will be provided. So we're trying to create an entire curriculum package here, so that, we have an entire, package, from not only a set of slides like you might get when someone says they're developing curriculum, but an entire set of lesson plans, instructor slides, labs and games that can engage the student in some hands-on activities. Graphic organizers for the teachers, assessments to be used to check the students' understanding of the material, and then we hope it will, or plan for it to be a visually rich content, so it's not dry, wordy slides, but visually rich and engaging. The curriculum standards that we're planning to adhere to, some of the topics that we're planning to teach include ethics. So basically, we're targeting the foundational CAE knowledge units, and so we'll hit ethics, establishing trust, ubiquitous connectivity, data security, system security, adversarial thinking, risk, and then implications. And that's all I've got. Just wanted to give a quick introduction of the UAH project. I encourage any and all to reach out to UAH via this email address. It's ccre@uah.edu. And we will get back to you quickly. And at that, I think we're going to hold questions right now and let John Sands introduce his part of the project, and then we'll come back for group questions for UAH and Moraine Valley.
All right, thank you, Tommy. All right. So like we said, we're working together on this project. So I thought I'd just give you a little bit of the rationale, what we're trying to accomplish as a group, and then some of our initiatives and how those initiatives will address each of these rationale. So we're looking to increase the number of students interested in cybersecurity career programs. So you'll see we have an initiative that just targets that. We want to provide new opportunities for K-12 students interested in cybersecurity careers. We want to establish an early start program for students pursuing a cybersecurity program of study. We want to expand the amount of instructional materials available to K-12 teachers. We want to provide tuition savings for students and parents by working articulation agreements and developing a directory of schools, CAEs that offer that. We want to increase matriculation and retention between K-12 and college cybersecurity programs. And then, of course, create a more diverse national K-12 CAE pipeline. So those are our rationale. And then what we're going to do is we have basically a 5-point program that we're working with to achieve these things. So the first thing we're going to talk about this morning is that we're working at Brookdale Community College. Mike Cassani has had many years of doing interactive type of instructional materials. But what we're doing with him is we're building a career experience program, a 16-hour cybersecurity career orientation experience. And we'll talk about what that's all about. But the idea is to build this experience and then be able to give it out to the community. And then ultimately build on it and so on. And I'll get into some of the details of that as we get to the next slide. The second thing is we're going to be working with Tommy's group on an open source online cybersecurity foundations curriculum. And we really see our role in there is to bring partners in and to really amplify the instructional materials. So to provide things like labs and interactive activities and then also supplemental type of materials that can be used both by students and by K-12 educators to really build a more robust program and one that has more scope and options for students can really reach for all the different types of work roles that are in the cybersecurity world today. The third thing that we're doing, we're working with Foresight Community College, Technical College, and Dan with the development and creation of a, really you could call it like a dual credit or articulation directory. And the idea is to have this directory for the CAE community so that students and career counselors and educators and parents can basically explore, just like they do now with the CAE map of where cybersecurity programs are available in your community. But what are the programs that students can get involved in while they're still in K-12 level that will lead to those programs and provide a smoother transition, save parents money, and of course, increase retention and enrollment in those programs. Okay. Then we're working with Dr. Dan Manson on extracurricular learning programs. And it basically is going to work around two key things. One will be a bi-weekly web-based live show that Dan will talk a little bit about. And then in the background, we'll also have a portal. And we'll talk about what the goals of this are, but basically the idea is it'll be high school students that are already involved in things like extracurricular activities, talking to other high school students or educators about how they can get involved in all the different types of extracurricular activity that are available today in cybersecurity programs. And then finally, we have Steve Miller and Ernie Friend are leading an effort where we are going to work with national business partners to support some of these initiatives and then to expand some of the opportunities in the K-12 from everything from possible workforce experiences to sponsoring different events, guest speakers, and they've got other ideas. We've already had 3 or 4 major companies step up and say they want to be involved in this. And we're going to sort of navigate that and where they would be most effective. And if they want to invest in things, what would be the best things to have them invest in? So those are our 5 initiatives. All right, so our first initiative we talked about was the education environment. So this screen basically just shows you an example, but what the idea is that Mike Cassani and his team, a team out of New York, we have professional developers helping us with this, are going to create a 2D/3D environment. In fact, we already have that environment, that the environment itself has already been developed. So now what we're doing is we are working with that team to populate it with avatars, and these avatars are going to represent different types of jobs that people in the cybersecurity field could be hired in or work in. All right, and we're going to try to spread them across the NICE framework. We want to give students a good feel for all the different types of jobs that are out there. But the idea is, instead of just sitting and talking to students and giving them an assignment, what we want them to do is to go into this environment and actually explore the environment. They'll check in at the orientation desk. They'll get security badges, and then they will be given a briefing. And then they're going to have a mission that they're going to have to go in. And there'll be 7 different areas. Right now, they're going to mimic the NICE framework. So might be an area where they're doing investigation and forensic work. There might be a conference room where they're talking about purchasing and evaluating equipment. There'll be a SOC and so on. But the idea is they're going to be able to go into this environment from your classroom or from their home, and they're going to be able to go in and actually explore what the workplace looks like that cyber people work in. And then they're going to be able to interface with the actual people in this environment that represent people that work in this field. So I'll just basically give you a quick tour of this, and then I'll let Mike talk a little bit about some of the progress that we've made in developing this. So here's sort of the environment. So they come off the elevator. By the way, they can take elevators or stairs. And here's where they're going to be evaluating equipment and provisioning. So we'll have people in here that they'll be able to talk to and watch them what they do on a daily basis. And this might be a room where we have people working on policies and procedures and so on in the governance side. Then we go upstairs and get into some of the more interesting type of things. And students will be able to navigate through a map, so they don't have to take the same path. They can go any room they want to go in any order, basically. But you can get an idea. It's pretty realistic. It represents I would say, a pretty realistic facility. And it'll have everything from a SOC to a NOC and so on. I don't want to get everyone dizzy here, but that's an idea of what the environment's actually going to look like. And you'll be able to do this with either goggles or with your PC. So if you have the 3D goggles, at some point you actually could sit down to a computer and you'd have a keyboard in front of you that you could type on and so on. Okay? So from there, we are now in the process that we have the environment developed. We are going to create the individuals. And I'll let Mike talk a little bit about this, but what we basically did, I'll bring this up. Mike, are you out there? Do you want to talk about this?
Sure.
Okay.
Sure. All right. Thanks, John. So what we did was we looked at sort of the type of things that students could learn about different individuals in the different rooms, and competitions that they participated in. Obviously their name and their title, linking to again the 52 job roles of the NICE framework. Their education, any continuing education they've done, any industry credentials. Awards and recognitions, other attributes. So at our college, we found an interesting thing that a lot of cybersecurity students play instruments. So we thought it'd be interesting to include that sort of information. Is their organization a contractor, public, private, or government? Professional affiliations. The nature of work we thought was important. We really want to get students to understand what the work is like and what these people do, and again, what their responsibilities are in terms of that work. So this is just sort of, John and I brainstormed these ideas of what this profile would look like. So we've got people working on collecting this information, and then we'll be building these avatars out in the rooms. And so it could be something as simple as a website with a resume on it. It could even be, having their certificates or degrees on the wall where somebody can walk into a room and check on that. So this is sort of where we are with that.
All right. So again, we're going to create, we basically identified 20 different people. And by the way, we've based these on real people, although they may not all be, we're going to take some liberty in actually defining the actual avatars and so on. But it's going to be realistic as well. So one of the things Mike and I talked about is that some of these avatars will really play multiple roles, right? Which is very realistic. So they might be, part of a team that works in a SOC, but they might also be part of the team that's involved with governance, right? Or an investigation and so on. So you might find some of the avatars in different locations. When the students, go from one location to another, they might find that, one of the avatars they just talked to is also in here, and they do this type of work as well. So we want to sort of represent, the cross-functional work that occurs as well. All right. And then Mike talked about these challenges or Easter eggs, and he's already done some work on these in some of his instructional challenges that he's built up to this point. So I'll kick this off and let Mike, add anything that he'd like to add. But the idea is when they go into these environments, we're going to hide things in the form of challenges. Okay, so they could be anything from a document that's in a folder, and when they get their badges, they're going to be told they have a certain level of privilege and they can look at documents, they have certain markings and so on, just to get them, the idea that you're going into an environment that's controlled, right? And as they progress through the environment, they might get greater privileges, and we're going to gamify it. We want to make this interesting and in the form of a game. And again, the idea would be somewhere between 12 and 16 hours for a student to complete this whole thing. And we're hoping that we're going to build a instructional package for the teachers that want to do this in the classroom, and then also a guidance for individuals that would do this on their own. And that might include posters for the wall, and it might have a directory of the people that are in there that they can, who they can expect to see, and what kind of things we're looking for within the challenges and so on. But we'll have some of them just direct dialogue. So they should be able to learn things by asking some of the avatars questions. They might be able to observe them sending emails and text messages to each other or to other members of their organization. There might be conversations between the avatars that they can listen to. But there'll be part of these that will fall into this category of dialogue between the avatars, and they'll learn about the work environment and things like that with those types of communications. Okay. We're also going to hide and have resumes and CVs, both in electronic form, maybe in folders, could be on a website. So they'll be able to look into things like that. There will be certificates, whether they're on their wall or in a folder or somewhere where we hide these certificates. Maybe it's on a device. We'll have badges that we're going to give out to them. And again, the badges are sort of can control their access. and what things they're allowed to see. And if they look at things they're not allowed to see, they'll have points taken away. So again, we want to gamify this. Okay. We'll also have things like contracts and presentations going on. So we might have, one of the avatars given a PowerPoint or given a talk on a video and so on. Okay. We'll start with fairly simple Easter eggs, but as time goes on, we want to build these to be more complicated. And the idea is if we get a funded second round, that we could make these even far more complex. But yeah, the idea is it will be an environment that we can build upon, get feedback from the community, and really make this even a more engaging and better experience for your students. All right. I hope I didn't steal everything, Mike, but anything else you want to add to this?
I would just add that the team we have working on this piece of it now, we picked people that are really pushing hard to make it much more interactive. So, for example, they're talking about having a little crypto lock where you have to figure out a code to get into a room to access some material. So they don't want it to just be somebody just explores around and find things. They want them to have to actually do some cybersecurity related activities to learn about some of these people.
And they're going to make it fun too. Like one of the ideas is we're going to have a drone in one of the areas, and they'll be able to actually, guide the drone and look at things from a different perspective that they may not have access to, and so on. We have two highly experienced educators that are helping us with the architecture of this. Mandy's not only been an educator for many years and has had her students win competitions and so on, but she's worked on different types of extracurricular events outside the classroom. And then we have another instructor that's about 15 years of experience teaching cyber and really sort of the higher end courses at the community college, but also lots of experience with working with the high school teachers. So anything else, Mike? I think that's about it on that.
Yeah, that's it. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Thank you.
So that's the general idea behind the career orientation. Okay. The second part is, of course, the curriculum. And we're really going to play a secondary role in this curriculum. Okay. So the idea is that what we want to do is to provide interactive activities, labs, and then to work with business partners to provide a richer portfolio for teachers and students that want to go a little deeper into different topics and so on. All right, so we're going to use a lot of the topics that are out there, but basically help formulate these. Went too far. Okay, so we are going to follow the same as the other team. We're going to use the cybersecurity framework or guidelines. We're also going to leverage things that are out there. So, there was a lot of investment in use of the C5 materials. I don't know how many are using them, but there's some good materials in there that we really think should be leveraged. So those are kind of things that we could look at. And then Mike has worked on a project called eMates for years and has a whole library of interactive type of activities that we want to surround the curriculum with. So students aren't just going to go in and read, read content or whatever. They're going to have these eMates that enable them to have deep understanding of different topics and then hopefully master some of these topics. Oh, I missed the last. And the last one is really the use of cyber ranges in virtual environments as well. So if you've been to a high school classroom, they are locked down tight and there's very little that they have access to. So we're also working in the CISCO Networking Academy, and they've committed with us to basically give us their entire cybersecurity portfolio. But they're going to let us go a step beyond that. We are actually starting from this first class, and we are going to help them rewrite these classes so they better align to the KUs, to the CAKUs, and security certifications like Security Plus, as well as some of the areas of the NICE framework. All right. The next course we'll look at will be their Cybersecurity Essentials, which is really like a Security Plus course. And we will be helping them do a rewrite of that course as well, and then embedding some of these things. So if you don't have a textbook or whatever, these are literally online textbooks that have interactive content and so on. All the way up to their CCNA Security, which is like a network security course. And you can see the links and so on with these. And then they have sort of like their CEH course. And then of course they have their IoT security course. So we're going to help them rewrite these things and better align them to those frameworks and to the target audience that we're looking for. Okay. The next initiative really is going to be led by Deanne at Foresight. And the idea is to make a really nice looking national directory of dual credit / dual enrollment programs in the CAE community. So what we're going to be asking for is participation from the CAE members to share with us what your dual credit programs look like, who are your partners, how do students, if they want to get involved when they're in K-12, what is the contact information, where do they go, what degrees will it lead to, and so on. Deanne, you want to add anything to that? So Deanne's been doing this for a long time. I think most of you know Deanne, and she'll be leading this effort.
Sure, John, I'll add a little bit to that. And so this is exciting because what's going to happen that if you're in California, you're in Nevada, your students, your teachers, business partners can go into this national directory and say, okay, this is the school, this is the curriculum, this is the programs they teach. And so these are kind of the competencies that they have and that they are teaching. So now it maps to my job. Let's just take my job description. And so now I know that these students can move from here to there. Parents can go in, rural area homeschoolers can go in. They can see where resources for their children are as a parent. And high school teachers can go in and see what's the next pathway to their child's or brother's career pathway, educational pathway, and how to get there. So that's very exciting because now you just go to one place and you can see all the CAEs all over the world and what their programs consist of, competencies, and all of that kind of thing. So I think that's going to work very well. And so I'm excited about working with this, and I have done a lot of work with the high schools on articulations, MOUs, and just mapping those kinds of things in our state. And so anyone without cybersecurity programs can see that in that directory as well. So I'm happy to be working with the team on this initiative, and more will be coming. We'll be also promoting kind of a college fair. Actually, that's one of our thoughts. We're going to do a college fair that will promote this to all the students and the CAE institutions as we move forward.
Sort of the beauty of this too is we're not starting from scratch. You may remember that the last go around we created a basic database for articulation of the CAE members, but this will let us update that and then have a much better interface and nice looking type of thing that career counselors and teachers and parents would want to look at. So
absolutely, John's team did a great job on that. So it's great to not be reinventing the wheel, but just expanding on that.
So the next part of ours is really trying to expand the opportunities for high school students and extracurricular activities. And we're going to start that by creating a bi-weekly show. So Dan Manson's going to lead that effort. It's going to actually be run by high school students. He's got the team already put together, and you can see down here, they're going to have their first show tonight. We'll have a website that supports that as well. But the whole idea behind this show will be to promote things like cybersecurity competitions, honors programs, student organizations, the different cybersecurity events that are available for K-12, after school programs. Of course, Gen Cyber would fall in the category. And then we'll even working with the business partners for workforce opportunities to try to expand these for into the K-12 realm. So Dan, you want to talk at all about the show?
Sure. Thank you, John. This is an idea I've had for a long time. Some of you know I had a show called CyberFed that I did for a few years, and lately I've been doing podcasts for the NICE competition subgroup. But what I really am excited about this gets down to peer learning. You know, these are our kids that started, a lot of them started playing in extracurricular cyber activities in middle school. And that's where you can start. Today, you can start playing in competition. It's in 6th grade. We're moving curriculum down to the elementary school level. It's common down to high school level. And so these are kids that have passion, have true passion for learning cyber and for playing cyber. And that's what the show is going to communicate. The show is going to be a great vehicle to reach schools that haven't developed cyber curriculum or haven't gotten their students into extracurricular activities. It's going to be able to show them how it's done. We're going to profile schools across the country. We'll profile cyber teams across the country, initiatives such as the initiatives going on in these grants. The show is going to be 30 minutes every 2 weeks. We're going to have a theme for each show. So for tonight's show, we're going to be interviewing Davina Pruitt-Mental on National Cybersecurity Career Awareness Week. 2 weeks from now, we're going to be providing a virtual walkthrough of the National Cryptologic Museum. So we're going to have themes for each show, but in addition to talking about activities, we're going to give them tips. The model of the show is Stay Aware to Show You Care. So we're going to talk about how you can be safe online, you know, how you can protect yourself when you're on the internet. We're going to have a great, fun learning show that is communicated by high school students. Eventually, we'll probably get down to middle school students with this show too. I'm really excited about this project. I think we have a great team, and we're going to expand the team in the future to make it more geographical. We have 7 young women. We have 2 guys. We have students from Missouri, from Southern California. But we're really excited about this. We hope that you tune in tonight. John posted the slide. I'm going to post in the chat the link to the show as well, so you can see where it is. Oh, okay, I see.
And it's here as well. So you, if we're giving it slides out, you'll be able to also see it on this here. But yeah, put it in chat. That's good.
We're going to record the shows. We're going to post them up to YouTube so people can watch them after the fact. They'll be available, and we're going to have a website, k12cybertalk.org, and that's going to be the home for the K-12 Cyber Talk show.
Yeah, and just to let you know a little bit of what's going on. Dan's managing a lot with this because we're literally, as part of the grant, we're giving stipends to the leads of this show. And the idea will be we'll have 3, like a director, and we'll have 3 officers that basically run the show. And then the idea would be to allow other students from across the country to apply to be, one of the show members for a season. And we'd like to do it probably on a semester-based type of basis, but be able to maybe get a student from the Beltway area and someone from the South and so on. But for students that are watching this, if they think they've got the talent and they have an interest in being part of a show like this, that they can get involved with it. And I can tell you, we're hearing a lot of great comments back from our corporate partners about this. So I think we're going to ultimately have the ability to have industry sponsors for the show, and even other types of ways that industry will be able to invest in this and help us get the word out to more students. And one of the things Dan and I are hoping for is that teachers start to incorporate this in their class. So every other week, they take a half hour and let the students watch this, because part of it will be educational. They will teach some type of topic each week, as well as different interests and things that students can get involved in. Because one of the things that we just hate hearing, Dan and I hear this all the time, is I didn't know about this, and how do you find out? Well, hopefully we get the word out on this show, and this will enable a lot more people to know about the different types of activities that students can get involved with. All right.
Thank you, John.
All right. So in our last initiative is really this business and industry partnership. And we did this because when we talked to a couple of our business partners and told them we were applying for this grant, I was basically asked, is there room for us to get involved? And basically I was like, you know what, there should be. So we included this, and I think this is going to actually be a really interesting part of this whole program, because we're going to have other things that they can support financially or with their expertise. But the idea is to have a national business partnership. Steve Miller and Ernie Friend are going to be leading this effort, and we've already got a handful of institutions that said, or I should say businesses that said that they would want to be part of this initial part of the grant. And they've even come to the table with things that they want to provide. So like I said, CISCO's already said, not only do we want to support this, but we have all kinds of curriculum out there that we could give out to the community that sort of wraps all the things that you're doing and let students explore into other areas. And they're going to provide those things for free to us. But to me, the big sell was that they said, you know what, we would even like you to take a look at these things and see, are they aligned to what you want to see out of your program, and would you be interested in giving us some guidance in redoing these courses? So we're actually going to help them in redeveloping some of the courses. But the types of things that we see businesses providing to this effort will of course be instructional materials. And if you see some of these companies, you already know that, like Cisco Systems and Palo Alto, Dell, VM, and so on, all of these groups already have curriculum, and we're trying to have them give the curriculum down to the K-12 and at least share the types of content that would be applicable and appropriate for those levels. All right. Also, we're looking at them sponsoring exam vouchers. So the best way to get a kid motivated is after they go through a course that they can go in and actually achieve a certification. So we're hoping that we're going to get some exam vouchers that we'll be able to distribute from our business partners to schools that participate in this program. Access to products and services, access to subject matter experts and job fairs. Each one of these organizations do different job fairs and so on, and we'd like to be part of that and let kids, be part of that. And then, they have really a group of subject matter experts that we could call upon to present to high schools or attend a job fair or a cyber event within their communities that can promote these careers locally within their communities. All right, things like free access to their extensive portfolio of online curriculum, access to virtual cyber ranges. I just talked to someone Friday down in Houston. So I'm up in Chicago, but I talked to someone Friday, and they just created a playground for IoT. And the idea is to get high school students to use this thing. So this would be the perfect place to bring them in as a business partner, work with Dan and work with the curriculum team to give students access to this, because this is something, a range that they built for free to get students exposed to how is IoT being deployed in automation, and what are the security concerns, and can I get in and actually experience these things firsthand. All right, so those are the types of things that we're looking for from the business partnerships and this initiative. Okay, Stephen, do you want to add anything? I'm sorry, I should have taken your whole time, but do you want to add anything to this?
No, that's fine. The only thing is that Ernie and I are going to be looking at trying to expand that list, and some of our outreaches through different chambers across the major metropolitan areas. Good examples like Phoenix, that chamber there has several, probably 60 plus industry partners that, so we're going to try to leverage those type of organizations, as well as in some of the, I've contacted some of the old companies in Houston, and they've even considered some of their foundation support as far as sponsors of vouchers and whatnot. So that's kind of what we're going to be looking at, and try to pull these groups together in some kind of a steering committee as well.
And
So
hopefully
Stephen,
will serve as that. It will serve as like this central place for the CAE community to get corporate, support,
Yeah, so Stephen, I don't know if I mentioned it before, but the three workforce initiatives that are being led by University of West Florida, Purdue Northwest, and University of Louisville all have an extensive list of industry partners. So if you'll remind me, I'll send you those POC contacts. You might want to just reach out to them and let them know what you're doing. Some of them have some big name corporations that might be interested in what you're doing.
Right. And I'm on that one with Western University.
Right, you're right. Right.
But I do
Okay.
know, so we do have those contacts, but I'd be interested in the others because we need to expand this throughout the country. And
Right.
I've also shared this with some of the independent school districts in Texas and in New Mexico. What we have is something called the regions, and
Right.
they support those, and they're really excited about this program, and they could be a way to help disseminate this out to
Cool.
all the high schools.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Thank you.
All right, and the last slide is just a little bit about some of the things that I think are going to be available really quickly to the organization. So, the partnership with CISCO Networking Academy basically said, because part of we have two really large groups out there in the K-12 community that feed us, right? We have the IT side and we have the computer science side. Right. In the IT side, we have that's the side the community college, most of the community college programs are probably more engaged on that side. Right. But one of the things I noticed that we need more programming. We need more experiences in the K-12 where students can get exposure to different languages and different types of events and extracurricular type of things there as well. So the CISCO Academy program has got all of these programs for teaching different languages and applications and so on. And one of the things we're going to work on almost immediately is making some of these things available freely throughout the community, and maybe do some faculty workshops, introduce some of these things in the show so kids can go in and access these courses for free, participate in the hackathons, and really improve their skill level. So not only in this case would they necessarily have IT background, but they're going to have a stronger programming side as well. Because I can tell you on our side, we've tried to introduce more advanced programming in our program over the years, and we found that was the most difficult thing to do because a lot of the students came to us with very little background, right? But if we can start to get them exposed to these things and an interest in it in high school and in the K-12 grades, I think we're going to have a much more successful ability to expose them to much higher level classes and types of exercises and so on that they'll be able to be successful in. All right, so that's really the summation of our project. We wanted to leave some time, for questions and answers and so on. I will tell you one of the questions I've been inundated with is, can we be part of the beta program, let's say for the career orientation experience? And we are going to be looking for beta partners. And I think what we're going to do is come up with a little program of how you become a beta partner, because we want that to be a partnership where we're going to get something back and be able to really improve upon what we've built. Okay, so just a little bit about some of the comments that we've heard up to this point. But at that, I think I'll pause for a minute and see if we have questions out there.
We have a question from Ann Conkey. She says CISCO requires instructors to be accredited to teach some of those courses. Are they waiving this requirement as they provide this curriculum for the grant? On
some, yes, and some, no. So there'll be what we're going to do. We'll break the courses into 2 groups. But the other thing you need to know is that part of this whole initiative is that we have a partner of another initiative out there that's doing faculty development. So there might be an opportunity there where we get faculty, an opportunity to go through maybe a course like this for free, get their credentials, and have teachers out there, because we don't really want teachers out there that don't know the materials, right? So if we need to expand faculty development and work with, a couple of the other initiatives out there, I'm sure Wayne and the other groups that are doing the faculty development initiatives would have some interest in working with those teachers to improve their skill levels. But the short answer is there still will be 2 sets of courses. Actually, there's 3 sets. There's a set that students can just go to and have free access to. There's a set that teachers and students will be able to go to and free access. There's no teacher requirements. And then the higher level ones will still have some faculty requirements, which they should. I mean, some of these are, you shouldn't have just anyone teaching them. All right, so we have people saying they would serve as a beta partner. So we are going to be interested in beta partnerships with some of these initiatives. And one of the things we'd like to get feedback from the group that's out there. Are there things you think we're missing in some of these? So, as an example, if we have this business partnerships, are there other asks of businesses that would help the K-12 community and help our universities in the articulation agreements and building stronger pipelines? And then the other thing is in our career orientation, we want to build a packet for every teacher. So what kinds of things would you like to see in there? So we already know we want to have like a teacher's guide and maybe some posters for the rooms and things like that. But are there other things that we might want to package with that program and be able to distribute to teachers?
Hi, this is Ram Dantu. I'm not sure whether you can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Oh, good. University of North Texas. So one thing I have observed is that a lot of programs are catered towards mostly high performing in the class, like 30–40% of the people get tracked. So I think we also have to think about cybersecurity for all. That means even like bottom, I don't say bottom, but 30–40% underperforming students. And the problem sometimes is that once they arrive to the high school, it's too late sometimes. Mm-hmm. So how do we actually address this kind of challenge? I just want a general question to ask. So we have been doing a little bit of research on that, but I'm sure a lot of people here have expertise and worked on this before.
This is Tommy Morris, Ram. I know that the curriculum and the online course that we're creating, I mean, we are definitely going to be targeting at the middle school age. So as we try to recruit students, we will be trying to reach those middle school students. And so that helps part of your question, which is, how do we get them before high school while they're still, influenceable? The part about these programs drawing the top 20 to 30% of students, that's a very good point. And I don't actually have a great answer for it today, except we're definitely not trying to only target the top students. I just think that, cybersecurity definitely has an air of this hard thing that you can go learn, that then when you learn it, you open the world to a good job and stuff like that. So there's probably some built-in, lore around cybersecurity that needs to be broken down so that you can reach beyond that top group. I'd
like to add to that. I'd like to add to it because I think we put together a team that can really address the obstacles that most K-12 programs run into, right? So, I mean, because I've been doing this for a long time, and like I go to a lot of K-12 classrooms, and the first thing you're going to notice is those classrooms are locked down. So the first thing that you have to do is to be able to bring technology into the classroom that's going to allow students to really experience something. You can't teach students about access control if they can't even access their own systems, right? So the use of virtual machines, the use of simulators, those types of things are absolutely critical to engage students, and especially students that have a different learning style maybe than the top tier, right? So that's one of the things, and we have a lot of expertise on both of our teams to incorporate those types of things. The second thing is, I've been in this for a long time, and I can tell you that the most successful programs across the country are the ones that get involved in extracurricular type of activities, right? The ones that just teach the curriculum, I can tell you that most of them struggle, right? But if they have their kids in a club and they get involved in hackathons and they do different competitions and they go to different events and things like that, that usually is a good indicator that you end up having a program that has a larger reach, usually does better with retention. There's more excitement in the classroom, and all those things that lead to better instruction and to me to more successful students and like you said, a broader reach of students. And then the last thing is really faculty development and providing faculty with the tools that they need. This is not easy stuff to teach as a high school faculty member. I mean, they're teaching other topics. They might have one section in this, right? They're teaching math, they're doing history, some other. I was a high school teacher one time, so I know where they're coming from, right? And if you can give them more resources in a structure like that framework, and then give them things to build their curriculum, you're going to build more successful programs. And those are the things I thought we focused on when we got our teams together. And it's sort of funny because when Tommy and I got together, they were really the same things. When we talked about what are we trying to achieve with this and how do we really make a difference, we were on the same page. All of these things were basically on the same page. They had a little different focus on some of their extracurricular activities than we did, right? But even looking at their materials, you can see that they were types of things that are going to help a high school teacher prepare and actually provide a higher quality of course. So yeah. I don't know, Jesse, if you want to add to it, because I know you and I have had some discussions about that too. So
sure, yeah. One thing that I want to mention, and I'm Jesse Harrison, by the way. I work on the Ring project at UAH, and I think it's important to keep in mind the target audience and scope of this project. You know, really, we're trying to hit those students that do not typically have access to a cybersecurity course throughout the year. So ideally, this is going to be a student that has like a spark of inspiration to study cybersecurity. They have an interest in it, maybe from a Gen Cyber camp, maybe from another activity that they participate in. But really going into how do we make sure not to exclude students that maybe don't have as much of a background in this area. And I think that the way that we're solving that is, in addition to these extracurricular activities that we're providing, we're also doing, you know, good old-fashioned differentiated instruction for this. So we're making sure that we're catering to the educational needs of the students. We have real live educators on our team to make sure that they're being developed for all kinds of students. And we have review teams as well, making sure that it's all pedagogically sound.
John, I also, we can engage, as you mentioned, having mentors at industry, but a lot of these companies, I know like in Houston, working with the Independent School District of Houston, we had something called Leadership 2000, and now they have something called Leadership 2030. And basically it's for at-risk high school students. And the professionals went in and mentored these students like at their lunchtime, or you could have it like with their, and they had like a club in a way where we actually went in and mentored those students and gave them information about, at this time, it was IT, what was available. We took them to the different, like to the University of Houston and the Rice and these places so they could get a feel for what it's like to be in an environment like that. We took them to our office buildings where they were more interested in the cafeteria than they were in the data center at the time. But anyway, this is the type of things I'd like to try to pull together with these industry partners as well, because I think they can make a big difference. I have a couple students that many years ago that are now professional engineers that I mentored when they were at Reagan High School in Houston. So I think we need to try to look at that as part of this program.
Yeah, someone posted something about access to Khan Academy and their YouTube. I think that would, that's definitely something we want to take a look at, I think. But hopefully we have the mechanisms to do all of these things, right? We got a show out there to help disseminate it, right? And we have the CAE community to disseminate these things. I don't know, I think.
John, can I mention something that I think is important? I think the reason we are succeeding as CAEs is we have created a community. For our competition, the one I'm most associated with, National Cyber League, the reason NCL is a success is because it's created a community. I really think for this project to succeed, we need a K-12 community.
Mhm.
And we should keep that in mind with everything we do. How do we build that community?
Agreed. That's a good comment.
I think that's what Mark Lepker is. I don't know if he's on yet, but Mark Lepker is looking at creating through CCEI. They're doing a K through 12 study with Melissa Dark. It's a feasibility on a CAE type of program for the K through 12 space, and that would really engineer, a community effort. So I think that's a real step in the right direction.
Yeah, definitely.
Mark is not going to be available until about 1:45. So what I'd like to do is, for anybody that wants to hang around and be part of this conversation, I'd like to brainstorm a little more along the lines of what we were just talking about in terms of building a community. What's it mean to have a pipeline? Where might we go with all of this? I think what UAH and Moraine Valley and the coalitions have started is a great idea. And I'm really excited about this concept of building a pipeline. In my conversations with our federal partners of late, I've really been emphasizing that what the CAE community is interested in doing is focusing on building college pathways, not so much at the exclusion of kids that have no intentions of ever going to college, but certainly that our focus is on building pipelines that are going to bring future cyber professionals into CAE schools, whether it's a 2-year program and out into the workforce, or whether it's on into university and higher degrees and then on into the workforce. And the more prepared they can be when they do that, the better off we'll all be. So if they come to school already holding credentials, fantastic. We ought to be talking about, when we talk about competency and talk about building professionals, we ought to be talking about, should we offer them opportunities to get credentials while they're at university, not just while they're in 2-year programs. There's a whole wide range of things we haven't really tackled yet. And Stephen, when we work with our industry partners, I'd really like to know what they think about that. Does that have value? I've been to a couple of meetings with credentialing organizations like CompTIA, who are really interested in moving away from paper tests and moving into performance-based credentialing. And I think once they do that, then that's going to have more value to us in the CAE program as we move to competency-based programs and looking for ways that we can evidence what our students can do in addition to what our students know. And so I think that all begins in what we're trying to do for the K-12 community. Our partners over at CISA do a lot with awareness. They're starting to move into building curriculum. And I think as we begin to build Ring and our full pipeline program, we need to look at what that means to us and how we partner with them in that arena. I really want to ensure that they and us are not going off in different directions and that we're not competing, but that we are truly partners. When NSF is funding K-12 kinds of things, we shouldn't be competing. We should be all working along the same lines. And I asked Ashley Greeley, since she's on this call, if she would talk some about what we're thinking about with Gen Cyber, because I really want Gen Cyber to be complementary to the CAE program as well. And I want to be sure that that program is feeding and is part of the pipeline that we're building. I don't see that Gen Cyber will become integrated with the CAEs, because who knows what kind of wild hair NSA might get in the future in terms of managing the two programs, and perhaps even though they're together today, they may be split apart in the future. But as long as we're together, we certainly want to ensure that we're aligned and that what we're doing with Gen Cyber complements what we're doing with the CAEs. And as long as we're building a CAE pipeline, Gen Cyber should be part of that. So, Stephen, again, I think that needs to build into industry, and we need to think about how we might build more industry partnerships with Gen Cyber. I think some of our camps have done a good job with that, but it's been a camp by camp process, and perhaps we should have a more concerted program-wide partnership with bigger industries where we can make some of those resources available program-wide. So Ashley, would you like to, I mean, since we have the time, I would really like to know what some of you who've been involved with this Gen Cyber program think about some of the ideas that we've got. So Ashley, I'm going to turn over to you and let you think about, and let you tell the group kind of some of the things we've been thinking about.
Okay, can do. So big picture wise, as Lynn said, we're looking at taking advantage of the fact that Gen Cyber and the CAE program are now in the same division. So we're working to better align the two to create this pipeline. And again, the key term there is align. And so one of the things we're looking at with the Gen Cyber program is, rather than just being a traditional summer camp program, shifting gears into more of a year-round outreach program. Some of our institutions are probably quite content with the summer camp program because that's what their area needs. But we have other institutions that have already begun embedding themselves into their local community. And we want to make sure that we have the ability to help continue those relationships that are being developed. So we have basically two different things: those that are using Gen Cyber to spawn K-12 activity, and those that have already done it. And we want to look to sustain both. And so we're working on a Gen Cyber strategic vision. Those of you involved in the program, you'll hear more about this in the upcoming months. And again, we're working at aligning with the Ring project team as well to make sure we're all on the same page. If I put on my teacher hat just for a second, I can tell you two of the most frustrating things when I attempted to start just a Cyber Patriot program in my school district was, number one, getting around the IT people and educating the K-12 IT people that no, I wasn't encouraging hacking into their systems. I was encouraging kids to eventually replace them and be better at their job than they are. And if students understand the systems, then it makes the K-12 environment that much better. But that's a challenge that we haven't even talked about. But the Ring project, in a way, avoids that challenge by working with the groups that Jesse talked about and almost being outside of the structured school system at this early stage. So that was very attractive to me, and how they set up the online curriculum. The other thing is, as a K-12 educator, it's really hard to know what resources are out there. And so having a centralized location where teachers will be able to go, and we're gonna, Jill and I have already talked about using the Gen Cyber program more strategically so that our community knows what's out there. And then they can pick and choose, like a buffet. My favorite part about the Gen Cyber program is the uniqueness of each camp. Every single camp is different, and we love that about the program. And so we want to make sure that our group, our community, is aware of everything out there. They may not choose to be involved in all of it, but we want to make sure that we're promoting it as well. And so I don't really have an agenda here, but I'm scrolling through the list of attendees here today and I recognize names. So those of you that have been involved or are involved in Gen Cyber, if you have any feedback, anything where you see where Ring and Gen Cyber could align, or the CAE, the bigger CAE community and Gen Cyber could align, feel free to share some thoughts here.
Hi, this is Lois Palin. How are you?
Hi, Lois. How are you?
I'm good. So we had a very successful merging of Gen Cyber and the CAE when some of our Gen Cyber teacher camp participants in 2019 were able to, we were able to get a grant to help five of the teachers increase their credentials. So they received grants to obtain a cybersecurity certificate in technology or management and policy. And that was a very successful merging of the two. We were not encouraging them to look for careers outside of teaching, but we wanted to make sure that they felt comfortable with their credentials in teaching cybersecurity in the K-12 environment. So that was a very successful partnership.
Okay, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, I think it's important, and I'm hoping that Ring will help us with this, that we see both what we're doing with the CAEs and what Gen Cyber is doing as building communities. Because if you've been doing a Gen Cyber camp, you know that part of what you have to do is build a relationship with the schools. The teachers have to trust you, the principals have to trust you. If you're going to go out and recruit students, you have to have a relationship with the schools. And you're kind of an unknown to them the first year, but as you proceed into multiple years of doing camps, you've begun to build that relationship, and we don't want those relationships to go to waste. We want to use what we've learned and what our camp leaders have learned over the 5 years of the life of the Gen Cyber program to leverage relationships in communities around the country to begin to embed cybersecurity education in those places in ways that we haven't been able to do it before, to build relationships between the CAEs, the schools, industry, and begin to build communities centered around what we started with Gen Cyber camps.
So Lynn, Tommy Morris, I'm sorry if I was interrupting.
No, that's okay, Tommy.
I was just going to say, I mean, I think Ring and Gen Cyber, there's two ways I think that they kind of will play off of each other. Or one is obviously, as we recruit through Gen Cyber, the Gen Cyber will drive students into Ring. But I think also after we start teaching Ring and reaching hopefully thousands of students in the fall and spring, they're going to be looking for more in the summer through Gen Cyber. And so you're going to have this back and forth, or yin and yang, of Gen Cyber and Ring. And so I think that drives the need for, we get started, we're reaching more and more, and then we have to do more because they're going to need more. They want to go to the next level.
Well, and it's occurred to me, Tommy, that we may have a new breed of Gen Cyber camps where the students from Ring are actually like youth counselors or something, where they're helping the older Ring kids or helping with the younger Gen Cyber kids or something.
That would be a great opportunity.
Yeah. But I think some of what I've learned from working with you guys down in Huntsville and what's evolved over the last 5 or 10 years in Huntsville is, I think, a great blueprint for some of the stuff we want to do, where, you've now got schools who are dedicated to cyber, and, the state has picked up some of what you all learned from building the cyber programs there. I would like to see that happening in other states. I mean, it is to some extent in a few states, but this is a big country, and we've got a lot of work to do. And anywhere that we can help that pollinate. John, I know you've done a lot of work around the country and CTE kinds of stuff. But you know, CTE doesn't always lend itself to students that want to go on to college. You know, some of it does, but some of it doesn't. Depends on the state, depends on the school system. So, you know, I think we need to be able to speak to, you know, where does CTE need, so if a kid's gone through a CTE program and decides they want to go to college, what else do they need to do? You know, are they ready for college, or is there other work they have to do? And that answer may be different depending on the state they're in.
Well, you know, I think, you know, sometimes we lump all the CTE programs together and think they're all treated, you know, sort of the same. And it's not necessarily always the case. I think a lot of the kids going into cyber or IT or things like that, they realize they're not going to get enough out of the CTE program in the high school to get a job. I mean, it's enough to get them interested and to get some basic skills, but to really get a job, and I mean, that's why we have so many articulation agreements now across the CTE, you know, spectrum. I'm seeing at the national level, though, you know, before COVID, the National ACTE Conference, they have an initiative in cyber. And what the initiative is all about is that it's multidisciplinary now. They need cyber in all of their programs. It's not just one program. So they're really interested in infusing cyber across all their programs. And that was one of the big focuses in the last, you know, national conference. And I know that, you know, they're funding an initiative this year, you know, with that of you know, introducing cybersecurity across the curriculum, across all of their CTE programs. So, and I think that's an opportunity for us. And, you know, when you look at those 52 work roles, a lot of those people come out of a multitude of different programs. They're not all taking the same pathway. So having a background in, you know, let's say electronics or something like that might be very beneficial for some companies, you know, so.